blunt already. You need an ashtray. I thought you brought it. You don't want to twisted it.
Oh, it's on my hair. Something.
What's up, nigga?
Something. Something.
Hold up, I would've grown all day. Hold up, somebody can't relate. Hold up, stay down with no faking. Go up, top down, I've been racing. Go up.
Hey, what's up, my beautiful kings and queens? My name is Shyla.
And it's your boy EK.
We are coming to you today with another royalty review for
Lovecraft Country, episode 7, I Am.
Yes, which is a really good episode.
Yeah, no, that episode was lit. We were really excited about this episode just based off the trailer last week.
We were super excited.
So we reviewed the trailer. So if you guys have some time, go check out that review for the trailer.
Yes.
And then come back to check out the actual review for the episode.
Definitely. Please like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are growing, so thank you guys for the viewers that we already have.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
So I mean, like we said, we're going to be talking about episode 7. So we'll go ahead and get into it. This episode really has a lot to get into. It's really deep. There's a lot of different things that happen in this episode. So a lot of shit that I'm unsure of. So I'm gonna need your guys' help definitely around this time because there's a lot of different things.
It is. And the episode starts off with Hippolyta and her trying to get the orderly, is that what it's called? The orrery. The orrery to work. She stole it from Letty's house a couple of episodes back, and she's been trying to get it to work.
Right.
And she's having a hard time doing so.
Right. If you guys recall, she stole it from Letty's house on the episode where they were having the party.
Yes, the
Letty had mentioned that a door was locked, and then, one of her roommates mentioned that a door was locked, and she told them to get in however they can. And I guess they never really did it. But when Hip walked by the room, it opened up freely to her and exposed the orrery. And from that moment, during the confusion of the fire in the front yard and all that other shit, she took the orrery out of the house when she left with her daughter. Yeah, when she left with her daughter.
Her daughter D. So moving on, it starts off with Hippolyta trying to get it to work, and then it flashes back 3 days before. So she's laying there, and then all of a sudden she goes back in the past prior 3 days, and that's how that episode starts.
Right. So she goes back in the past, and she's actually at the lodge that burned down.
Yes.
Looking for George because she found his map inside of Woody and was like, oh, that was on their way home from the museum, and she's like, we ain't going back home. And she kind of hit a U-turn, but then she did come back home because in this episode she actually came back home.
She was home.
So she came home after the lodge. So she busted that U-turn, went to the lodge, was trying to figure out stuff about George. She found the Orinthia Blue comic that Dee packed to go with George. Yes. So that's what let her confirm that he had been there.
Yes.
So, some time goes by. Mm-hmm. There you go. Some time goes by, and now she's ready to go back out on the road, and we'll get to that in a second. This episode covers the second time she leaves to kind of go uncover what's happened to George. Right.
So she learns how to use the orderly, and she gets it to open, and it lights up, and it opens, and she gets a key with coordinates to a location.
Right. And the coordinates were a longitude, latitude.
Yes.
So she had to plug that into a map at some rate and figure that out. So so she goes in, and she's looking at it sideways, and so she realizes that the planet needed the things to tilt on its axis and then to rotate on the same axis that it tilts on. Whatever the case was, she's obviously a genius when it comes to this planetary shit.
She's a discoverer. That's why she discovered that star that the white girl got credit for.
When she was a kid.
She's a discoverer.
She's fucking smart as fuck, bro. Yeah. She's like an astrologist. Like, no shit. She could probably be an astrologist if times weren't fucked up and skin and womanhood wasn't a factor. She would definitely be an astrologist.
Yes.
So basically, after this shows her activating the thing, it shows a little quote. It shows her the coordinates. It gives her a key. Right. And it goes away from that.
Right.
It goes back to Ruby and Christina.
Yes.
And Christina's actually showing. So at the end of the last episode, it showed William morph back. Christina morphed back into herself from William.
Right.
Right. And Ruby was like, "What the fuck,"
And that's how it ends.
Right. So in this episode, she brings her down to the basement, and she's kind of explaining to her that William was her ex-lover, and that he was murdered by the head of one of the other lodges. And so she started off her quest to get her magic up by A, trying to impress her dad, and B, trying to revenge her lover. But then as she kind of delved further, she was like, there's actually, I'm actually more cold with this shit than I thought. And I could be way better than just trying to impress my dad or trying to do this and that. And, you know, she already is kind of like, she already is scorned because they don't include women in the order.
Right.
So she's on some shit. So she shows Ruby the corpses of the husband, or of her lover, and the corpses of the lady from episode 2
with the dogs.
Right. I don't know if you guys remember that, but that was the lady who she was transforming into, that Ruby was transforming into last episode.
Yes.
So
when they're talking, Ruby is telling Christina, you know, you basically fucked me knowing that you were a woman, got my feelings involved, blah, blah, blah.
She did do that.
And Christina let her know, honestly, everything I told you, it was coming out of Williams' mouth, but it was me that was saying it.
It was still the truth.
Right. It was still the truth. So
everything besides the dick was the truth.
Right. So long story short, I want to see what's going to happen between
Ruby
Christina
and
I read in the group that they hope that they get together, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, I don't know, but I would get together like a relationship or get together as form an alliance, get together.
Maybe both, but relationship.
Because Ruby was in there like, my blood boy. It's boy. She was mad when she told her that shit. She was like, what the fuck? She was upset.
Very upset, which, you know, she had the right to be.
So then it pans off of that, and it goes to Letty having a dream. And now this is the third time us as viewers have seen this scene.
Yes.
Of Hannah running through the fire with the pregnancy and a book. And we don't know what the book is, but we could all guess it's a book of some importance.
And she's leading somebody to the exit. No matter who it is, she's running towards the door, leading you to an exit to get out of the burning house.
Right. I don't recall the first time we saw who it was. The second time was definitely Tick. And the third time was Letty.
The first time was Tick. She let Tick out that house.
Who was it the second time we saw it? Tick again? Oh, yeah, it was. Because first time it was Tick in real life.
Yeah.
And he left. And the second time it was Tick in his dream when Letty woke him up before they fucked outside in the garage or wherever the fuck they were.
Yeah.
And that's when he caught on fire in that dream.
Yeah.
But he didn't catch on fire in real life. So you're right. So the first time was in real life. Both 2 times was Tick.
Yes.
So in Letty's dream, the same thing was happening. But first, she starts getting pregnant. And she starts getting a bump. Like in real time.
Oh, I thought that it was just, she was already pregnant.
No, she ran up and she was skinny. And when she looked at her and she turned around at the door, then her bump just started growing like.
Oh, I didn't see that it was actively growing. I thought it was just already pregnant. Yeah, okay. So her baby bump was growing and she was catching on fire at the same time.
Which woke her up. Like it would wake anybody up. You
right.
Burning in flames. We're burning now.
Yeah.
So she wakes up and Tick isn't in the bed. She looks to the side and her bed's empty. And she's like, oh, damn, where's Tick? So she goes looking for him. And he's sitting up back in that room where he was studying. And that's when they discover that they've shared the same dream. They've had the same dream.
Weird. That was really weird to me.
Yeah. Yeah, they were like, oh, you know, she started explaining the dream and he's like,
right.
You know, what do you mean? Like, oh, this? And she did this? How did you know she was standing at the front?
Yeah.
So that's when they started realizing that they're having this same dream. So now us as viewers, I'm like, you know, this obviously means something. They're trying to lead you to something, or something is, you know, something is to be known from this sequence of events.
Right.
Not just the fact that your ancestors survived this fire.
Right. They're showing Hannah standing at the doorway for a reason.
So then they figure together that, they figure that she's standing at the doorway. You know, the house is on fire. Why would you stop to grab a book? And they figure at that point, it's probably the book of names that she grabbed. Because that's the only thing of importance that would be that important to grab.
Right.
You know.
Right.
In a flame.
Right. So the next scene, it pans into Sammy and Montrose. Now, Sammy and Montrose, we saw last episode when he got out of his shell and when
Montrose became the spit god.
Oh, God, we saw when he was at the what was it?
The fucking drag hall?
The drag hall, the performance or whatever, and him being like, him letting himself go, him not being ashamed of who he was. So, okay, anyway, it fast forwards to them at the house. Sammy is making him breakfast, and Montrose just finds anything to bitch about. So you can tell that he's trying to push him away.
Yeah, basically
he doesn't want him there. Right.
He's bitching about all the aspects of his breakfast. He's bitching about the point that he's actually making breakfast.
Right.
Then he's bitching about he doesn't eat pork and that his grits aren't runny.
They were
like
runny.
Firm, like all this other shit. But basically, long story short, he's just trying to distance him because now he's back awake and not feeling sick and sorry for himself. And he's ashamed of being gay, obviously.
Of course.
And it's 1947. They're not as liberal as we are nowadays.
Right.
So it's definitely a stigma. And to be a gay black man, I would imagine is not doing you any favors. So at this point, he's kind of having like a buyer's remorse kind of thing in the morning, trying to like I said, kind of distance himself. So so Sammy's like, "Fuck you, I'm leaving."
Right. I'm not gonna allow you to make me feel bad.
Right. So he starts trying to bust out of the house, like, fuck it. He starts storming out, and Montrose, is like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and runs out to stop him. And he doesn't have a shirt on. He only has a shirt unbuttoned. Doesn't really have a shirt on. But it's definitely some emotional shit. And he grabs his hand. But right at this time, Letty and Tick is pulling up in the hallway. And so they see this whole altercation. And Tick is pissed.
Yes. They're just like having a stare off for about 10 seconds, which probably felt forever for them.
Right.
But it was just a stare off. They were embarrassed that they were caught, know. So Sammy just walks off, of course. And Tick walks up to his dad and say, "Did mom know?" Right.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, so it's true," because Tree had already been talking shit about his dad and Sammy. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, "Oh, so it's true." He asked him if his mom knew, and he said that his mom did know.
And I said, liar.
But I think that she did know, because that's why she had a baby with Uncle George.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then to protect him and not expose him that he was gay, she just let him raise the son.
Right.
Otherwise, why not? She was with Tick way before Hip was. Mm-hmm. So why not just have the baby with him and just fuck you? All right, well, you're gay. It's too bad I'm with your brother now, so it just is what it is.
Right.
But she probably found out afterwards, and like I said, to protect him, being a gay black man in America, it's already hard as fuck being a black man in America. To be a gay black man in America, like I said, is probably not easy. So to kind of protect him and whatever the case, man, she probably just went along with it.
Right, which makes sense. They had some type of arrangement. I understand that. But so at that point, they're outside, and Tick realizes that all the beatings were for nothing. All the beatings were for nothing.
Because he said that his dad used to tell him that he was beating him to stop him from being soft.
Yes.
And so, but then he's like, "Nigga, you gay, so that's soft as fuck. So how you gonna beat me?"
Right.
You know what I'm saying? How you gonna beat me and tell me?
Don't smoke that way.
So on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And as we already well know, Tick was abused. He's scarred by it. That's why he went to the war. He went to go to a war besides to be at home with his family and his dad, because he was beaten and his past was so fucked up.
Right, to escape.
So he's pissed off.
Right.
So Letty gets the information that she needs to get from him and meets him in the alleyway, like she said.
Right.
Gets the information from Montrose, because obviously at this point Tick don't want to fuck with this thing. He's done. So Letty gets the information needed. She sees Tick spazzing in the alley, but she always comes to her man's rescue. She comes up and she's like, "Hey, I got some information.
Right.
Your mom had a cousin who had a friend that also survived the Tulsa riots, and
she lives in St. Louis. It's about a 3-hour drive.
Right.
We can drive there, take Woody, and drive there and come back."
Right. Also, so basically, so she kind of goes and lets him know that, and that kind of calms him down and gives him, a clarity about what's going on, so he can like focus back on what he's supposed to be focusing on.
Right.
So they go to Hip's house, and then what happens?
So they go to Aunt Hippolyta's house, and Aunt Hippolyta is leaving for a guide's trip, and she's packing. Ruby's there to watch D, and Letty and Tick walk up as Aunt Hippolyta is driving away, and they ask if they could use Woody, and she politely says, "No, obviously you can't, because I'm using the car right now."
Right.
And then he was like, "Well,
yeah, I'm using my car, duh."
Right. But then he mentions, something about prints being submitted.
Yeah, because remember she was stressing about a couple episodes ago, because after George died, she needed to get the prints that Tick brought back for the next publishers in the guide.
Oh.
But George wasn't around to take them down to the printing house to get them printed into the book format. So she was kind of stressing about it, but Tick was like, "I already turned them in last night." So what he was saying was like, "I just recently turned in prints. We don't need we don't need a new series so soon."
Oh,
and so that's why she snapped on him. That's why she was like, "Nigga, did George put you in charge before he died? Before the sheriff, you say, shot him?" Yeah. And then he was like, "No." And then she's like, "All right then." And then he pulled off. So that's what she was trying to. He was trying to regulate her, like, "Hey, we don't need another thing of prints, so let me just get the car."
Oh, got it. I didn't even understand that part of it. Okay.
Right,
so So we know at this point the auntie maybe knows something because she was like, when you so-called say the sheriff shot him, what do you mean so-called say? You saw the bullet hole. You know I didn't shoot him.
Right.
So you can tell there's some animosity, and she doesn't know.
She doesn't know, but
she has an idea.
She knows they're not telling the truth, and that's why she kicked out of the house.
No,
she
left.
She didn't kick him out of the house, but that's why he got that energy and felt like he needed to leave. He's like, my stay is my welcome is warned.
Yeah.
Because she just kind of kept on feeling some type of way and shit, you know. So she knows something is up, and like we said, this is the whole thing of the episode. She's looking for him right now. She's now starting to start her own side missions to solve this mystery of what happened to her husband.
Right. Okay, so Aunt Hippolyta is on the road. Oh no!
Wait.
Actually, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say so. Yeah, I was gonna say so. So after she's touched them down, Tick is like, "Well, fuck, you know what are we gonna do? I guess we gotta go take the bus."
Right.
And Letty's like, "Yeah, cool, you can do that." And she's kind of hinting at she wants to stay home. Tick's like, "You wanted to stay and talk to your sister."
Yeah, she wanted to make it with her sister.
Right. So she stays behind to talk to her sister.
Which, side note, in the group, they're saying that that's not Ruby, that's the white girl trying to get info. So she apologized not to Ruby, but to the sister, but to Christina. But that's what they're saying in the group. Just as a side note.
That might be the case, but
I don't think so, because she had the memory. Mom never apologized. So maybe you're not her. Do you have that person's memories too?
No, I don't think so.
So I think that's Ruby.
Yeah, I think it's Ruby,
Mama never apologized.
And the other two people that she made potions from were dead.
Oh, but all you need is their blood.
Yeah, I know that's all you need is their blood, but
right.
That's an easy get. If I'm a witch and I'm a sorceress, I can get your blood. I'm pretty sure I can get your blood. I can trick you into getting your blood.
Right.
You know, and then appear as you somewhere. But the other people were dead, and they made a point to show that they were dead. And the other girl didn't. She was dead. That she didn't have to be dead for them to prove the point. They could have just took her blood when they found her passed out in the cellar,
right,
where Montrose was. So, anywho. So
Ruby and Letty finally talk.
Yeah, you go ahead and explain this whole scene.
So Ruby and Letty finally talk, and she apologizes. You know, I was never a hustler, but I tried to hustle you, and I apologize. And you could tell that Ruby was happy because she took off her glasses and looked at her and was like, well, maybe you're not like Mama, because she never apologized a day in her life. So you could tell that they kind of made up.
I want to see some flashback scenes of Mama.
Yes,
she sounds like a wild one, bro. She sounds like
she does because Letty seems to really despise of the mom. Not to mention she didn't show up to the funeral. So, anyways, so she apologized for her actions, which was a good thing. So I think that made Ruby happy.
Yeah,
temporarily.
Right.
Until she pissed her off again.
So then, it kind of pans. Well. What's after that?
So, and then the next scene happens. It pans to Hippolyta listening to French.
Yeah, she's listening to some French shit. Yeah, it's French.
It was a beautiful song. It just was, I don't know, it was French. So, and she knew the words.
Yeah, she was on it.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
So, yeah, so she's riding down the street. On the map, she's written in the corner of the map. I don't know if this was her handwriting or if it was already written on the map, because mind you, she's using Uncle George's maps to get around.
I think she wrote that down.
She wrote that down?
I think she wrote that
down.
And
it was just the inscription that was on the orrery. Oh, fuck. Which was every beginning in time and every limit of extension in space is what it said. And then it had the longitude, latitude of something.
Oh.
And you know, now that I understand, now that I'm rereading this and I've seen the episode, I think it was directing her there because to that time travel thing. And that was the beginning of every time and every moment in space when she got there and got it popping. So, yeah, that's what I put right here, alluding to some time travel shit. I didn't know at the time, but I just guessed. Yeah. So then she sees a black woman on a motorcycle pass her, which seems like an innocuous pass. She passes her, she shoots her the deuce. Tell them who that person is.
You go ahead, because I read it, but you're better at explaining it.
So basically, that woman is the first woman motorcyclist, the first black woman motorcyclist to travel to all 48 states. Just riding her motorcycle around. And obviously, that's a dangerous thing to do. Obviously, you've seen in this show, it's a dangerous thing to do. That's why George and Hip do the guidebook to help people who are trying to traverse through all 48 states safely and give them checkpoints and stuff. So she was the first person to actually do it in real life.
I didn't know that's what the Uncle was doing.
Yeah, that's what their guidebook is about.
Wow. All I didn't know.
And that's why they ended up getting fucked up at the white people's restaurant, because it was called like Lucille's or whoever's name it was. Right. They had already went there before, and it was a colored woman who owned it.
Yes,
and they thought it was a safe place. And when they got there,
it was
he was like, the guy on the phone was like, "Oh yeah, you heard what they did to Lucille. You know what happened to Miss Lucille or whatever." Right. And then Tick was like, what happened? Why did they do the White House? And he started moving the panels, and because they burned that shit down. So from the last time to the time that they had went there, now they didn't know. So they were following their own guide. But his guide is to like, it's like a underground railroad for the time of day that it is there. Like, where can black people go safe outside of their city if they're traveling? To warns you of the sundown counties and the towns and shit like that, and tells you where there's like non-racist hotel owners that are not going to cheat you out of your money and shit and let you stay for free. So he's out there putting his life at risk, giving this information for these people. He is,
and he's gone for long periods at a time because he's going from state to state or whatever he's doing, traveling from city to city, whatever. But I didn't know that's what I knew he was leaving, but I didn't know what it was about. I didn't know why he was leaving.
Yeah, that's why he didn't want to
I never thought to ask.
That's why in the first episode when Hip says like, "Oh, I'll do it," he's like, "No, it's too dangerous." He don't want her to go. He just want her to print the information. He just want her to write the book based on the information he finds from his studies. He don't want her to physically be out there with that bullshit.
Because it is dangerous.
It's dangerous as fuck. As clear, they almost got fucked up multiple times.
Episode 1.
Before he got fucked up.
Right.
So, you know what I'm saying? You never know what the fuck is out there. So that's who she is. And another quick history lesson that I have, I don't know if you guys know, but the Tulsa riots have been mentioned a couple times in here. The real name is the Tulsa Race Massacre. I'll give you a quick excerpt. It took place on May 31st and June 1st. It was a 2-day period. And this is when mobs of white residents, most of them were deputized and given weapons by city officials. That means that a normal white person walking along the street was given guns by the government officials of that town to go take out this task. They attacked black residents and business of the Greenwood district in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's been called the single worst incident of racial violence in American history. The attack carried out on ground and from private aircraft. That means that people marched in the city and they had airplanes dropping bombs on this town that was not starting a war, that was not doing anything except for making their own money and stuff.
Came through slaughtering people.
They destroyed more than 35 square blocks of the district. And at that time, it was the wealthiest black community in the United States, and it was known as Black Wall Street. More than 800 people were admitted to hospitals, and as many as 6,000 black residents were interned in large facilities. 36 people died. It was a real bad thing, but I just wanted to give you guys that real quick history lesson.
I just want to let you motherfuckers know we ain't fucking forget.
But that's another time. It's another story for another time. We'll come back to that.
Yes.
So then, after that, it pans to Tick. It goes to Tick, and he's with the cousin's friend.
Okay, yes.
And he's asking her a bunch of like personalized family questions about his own family, and she's kind of like, I don't know, kinda, right. Yeah.
She wasn't there directly. She heard stories.
Right. He doesn't really get any real questions answered.
No.
But she does have some pictures of the cousin, and she's like, "Oh, look, I have some pictures, blah, blah, blah." And she comes and brings him a book, and he sees in the book that...
But before that happens, Tick asks her about pages, and she gives him bad news and says, "I'm sorry, baby, those pages were burned in the Tulsa riots that he just mentioned." Mm-hmm. So you could tell that Tick was kind of let down, and she's like, "Have you ever seen a picture of your family?" He was like, "No, ma'am," and he was just eating. You could tell when he was sad. What's a good word for it?
The emotion, the somberness.
Yeah, and in his face when she said that the pages burned up. So then that's when she brought the picture book.
Right. Okay. And so in the picture book, that's when he sees a marking on the arm of one of his family members that he knows that he has a birthmark on his back that looks the same. Mm-hmm. So he's in there. So he goes to check it in his thing, in her mirror, and he's checking it. And they have the same symbol, like the same mark, like some Harry Potter shit. And then he gets a phone call from Letty saying that Hip figured out the orrery.
That Hip stole it from the house, and that it was at her house.
And it was because it was still going when she found it too, wasn't it? So she knew that it was stolen, and she knew that she had figured it out. So at this point, it kind of.
So before that, it pans. Okay, so we're talking about the old lady and Tick. It pans back to Ruby and her sister, and they're just talking and they're chopping it up, and Ruby's cooking. Ruby is cooking.
Yeah,
is that
cooking.
where yours is? For your notes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Ruby's cooking for the kids. Well, they're playing spades, what it seems to be spades or
they're playing
in the living
some type
room.
of card game.
And she comes in to ask her, like, when's dinner going to be ready? Because the kids are wondering.
Yeah.
But Ruby shuts her down before she's like, don't even you dare ask me when dinner's going to be ready.
Speaking of, one of those kids asked when is Bobo coming back, which is Emmett Till.
Right, so now we know that Emmett Till is on his vacation. And now we
Yes.
know, unfortunately, Emmett Till is not coming back. So we would like to know how they're going to deliver that information. I'm pretty sure we've said that in some of our other videos, but we wanted to know how they're going to deliver that information sometime.
It's going to be an episode. It's going to be an episode.
It's going to be a whole episode delivered. Oh, yeah, we looked up the names of the episodes, and one of them had Bobo's name directly in it. Damn. So anyway, so she tells her, she starts talking to her about Tick, and, you know, he doesn't pay rent, but he fixed a lot of shit around the house, and she offers her to come over and eat some of the food. And then what happens?
So she comes over to the food and she smells it and she said, ooh, does it have garlic in it? And she's like, you love garlic. And she just walks away. You can tell it makes her stomach queasy. When you're pregnant, smells are enhanced, and shit that smell good, it doesn't. It stinks. It smells horrible. And it makes your stomach turn. So you can tell that happened to her. And she like, unless you're pregnant with Mr. Fixer Jr.
Yeah, Junior Mr. Fix It.
Yeah, Junior Mr. Fix It. So you can tell. Then that's when Letty goes into the room and finds out that the orrery is not at her house. It's at Hippolyta's house.
Right.
Then it pans back to Tick.
Right. Tick gets the call to go find Hip. So
yes.
So then it goes to Hip, and she's pulling up at this planetarium.
The coordinates that she wrote down in on the map.
Right, that the thing gave her. And she's sitting there and doing some math, and this is what lets us know that she's a genius. I mean, have you ever seen...
She was calculating her ass off.
Hidden Figures? She's, was doing that shit. Just sitting there, busting numbers, doing fucking Pythagorean theorems and fucking A squared plus... Man, she was out there getting it.
She was working her ass off.
She was doing slopes and...
I wrote that she was calculating her ass off.
So she's doing this work on the back of an Arinthia Blue comic that her daughter packed with her during the checklist. That's important, because we're going to touch on that later. So then, that's when we started talking about, like, nobody in their family is dumb. Like, Uncle George is a bookworm. He reads all this shit. He's like a science fiction / book writing genius. Right. Also, this guy who goes and is a courageous dude who goes and sets up this guidebook and shit. Hip is the one who's actually writing and putting this shit into organized thoughts. Right. She's the mathematician. She was well into astrology while she was a kid. Which would even got her interested in naming the star that she did in the other episode. Right. Tick is pretty smart, and he's down to read some shit, and he gets into it. Even though he's a war guy, it showed him, even as a kid, just being a bookworm, big guy with glasses. Even Letty mentioned that. Right. Oh, that's Tick, the old bookworm? Right. And shit, so he's always been a reader and shit like that. Even Montrose, for his own credit, all the research that Tick ends up doing in a small period of time, Montrose has already done prior to him. Mm-hmm. So Montrose even is pretty savvy.
Come back. We're doing a video.
No, come back. We're doing a video.
Let me straighten my leg. Oh.
How do you do that? Why don't you just let him come in? We can just edit it out. Anyway, so, yeah, so pretty much nobody in the family is dumb. So, so she figures out the thing.
Yeah. She does the math and figures it out.
Basically, like, there's a vertical sitting version of the orrery. Right. And it's like on a wall, and she figures it out and gets it rolling, but some police pop in on her right as she gets it going. Right as the lights are coming up, and she's trying to understand the machine, the equipment. So then this nigga Tick pops out of nowhere, because, you know, they're like, oh, you know, what are you doing? A black person's not supposed to be here. How did you get that working? I'm pretty sure these cops are somehow in cahoots with the lieutenant who wears the black bodies. Because they're like, how did you get this working? So they knew it was there, and they knew that it didn't work. Right. They weren't just normal cops coming on the spot. So they're about to do whatever white cops do to black women, and this man Tick pops out of nowhere like Batman, 1970s Adam West Batman. Straight towards the bullets. Like, pew! Saving his auntie. Pew! Saving his auntie, okay? Tick came in saving his auntie. He threw one of the cops into the... Wait, so while he's fighting with the one, the gun goes off and it hits the astrology thing, and this starts a rift, and all these time and spaces start flashing behind them. And while it comes up, they're like, and it kind of halts the action of the fight. But then Tick's quick thinking, and then he throws him into that shit. He throws him in there. He just gets lost. Whoa! And then, that guy had dropped his gun, and picked it up, and had it on the other police officer, and he ran up on her, and she popped him like a Jeep.
Yes.
Boy.
Yeah, she did pop him. She was scared. She gave the gun to Tick.
And they was just standing there holding hands, looking scared, like, what are we going to do about this dead cop? Mm-hmm. And then Hip gets sucked into the rift.
Into the flashing rift, yes.
So, she gets sucked into the rift. And her first stop is she comes into some Twilight Zone, Black Mirror ass planet looking ass realm. Like, the whole thing is like this black sand.
So, wait, I wrote down, I wonder, how did Tick get there? Did Letty give Tick the coordinates? Tick just showed up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
How did Tick get there?
She would have had to.
It never says.
She would have had to, because she had the coordinates there.
Right.
Because they were engraved on the orrery. Mm-hmm. And that's where she was. That's the only way. She couldn't just be like, she's in St. Louis.
Right.
Because
she showed up, she rolled up in dirt. It was nothing around, really. Right. Like, it wasn't even like houses.
It was an abandoned planetarium.
Yes. So I wrote that down. I said, did Letty give the coordinates to where she was?
Yeah, she had to. That would have been, and that's quick thinking on Letty's part.
Let us know in the comments what you think. Let us know down below. That's what I wrote down before we moved on. Okay, so she gets sucked into the flashing
thing.
Yes.
The little rift. The time rift, I'll call it.
And she lands in the future. And she wakes up fully natural and naked.
Well, wait, hold on. She lands on that black planet with the diamonds on the floor. And the heart in the sky, that mechanical heart. Remember? That's where she lands first. And then, so she lands there. And the intergalactic soul sister pops up, and she does something to her, and she falls into that white room.
You're right.
And then she wakes up and she's naked, all in her natural, her natural body, her natural hair. She's just sitting there, naked, sister girl from Undercover Brother, just sitting there,
which I've never seen.
And the lady comes in again, and she's like, "What? Why you can't keep me here? All this, and that." By this time, she's put some clothes on. Mm-hmm. They left her a suit, and she's like, "You're not in a prison,
right? You're not in a prison." And she wakes up with this purple, pink thing in her wrists, in both of her wrists, and yeah, go. So then
the lady leaves her. And she starts like bleeding from her wrist, glitter.
Trying to bang out, get out.
Yeah, she starts and I guess she breaks the glass and it slits her little wrist glitter, and she starts peeling apart the bed, and like some weird stuff starts happening, and then she gets like some pieces from the bed and pries open these electrical units and starts messing with the door, and then the lady comes up to her, and then she like force pushes her like she's a Jedi. Like, poof.
Right. Locks the door and tell her that she's not a prisoner. Right.
And then she's like, where do you want to be? She's like, she's like trying to escape, and she has her like under this like little blue force field, and she's like, where do you want to be, or like, where do you want to go?
Yes.
And she starts laughing, and she's like, well, I want to be with Josephine Baker in Paris. Probably just being a smart ass.
Right.
And
I want to dance with, and then she winds up on stage.
And not knowing the steps, she's like in the middle of this already active going girl routine.
Yes.
And everybody's like pushing her and stuff, but she's like all amazed that she's there. She's just like,
she's starstruck.
And then she sees Josephine Baker, which, dang, we should have done some quick research on Josephine Baker. But you said you heard the name before.
I did, but I don't know much about
She probably was a prominent black showgirl. I'm gonna do some stuff. We'll let you guys know in the next video. But she was a prominent black showgirl who probably was a superstar and was like famous in Paris and in America and stuff like that. So she's probably one of the first black like superstars. Then it was what I didn't know was it was a showgirl show, so it was like a nude show. So they came in dancing and stuff, and then they all started stripping down, and Hip was just like looking around and shit.
Yeah.
And then everybody kind of cussed her out after the show because she didn't really move at all during the whole thing, and it was kind of weird. But she built a real connection with Josephine Baker throughout this little experience.
Mm-hmm.
Josephine Baker was like real nice to her, lets her know, the steps and shit like that. But the part that I'm confused about is that she keeps on going through the same sequence over and over and over, or living the next day, or whatever the case may be, but it shows different coordinates in the bottom of the screen each time. And it's not just a longitude and a latitude, there's a third number, and it's a negative number. And I'm like, what? Why is there 3 numbers? And it's like some weird thing, but it only changes like 1 digit every single time, even though it brings her back to the same time reference with Josephine Baker. And then she ends up in a conversation.
It's like they wanted us to know what that meant, and I just didn't.
Yeah, I just didn't know. Like you're lucky I knew what the longitude latitude was. Nobody uses that anymore. We have GPS. You just give me the real address and I'll just GPS it. Drop your pin.
But you can't drop your pin 1947.
No location dropping.
Right.
So, okay, so then she's. Do you remember anything significant about the Josephine Baker part before she goes to the next part?
I mean, if it was something significant, I probably missed it.
Yeah, I mean,
it wasn't really. She gained anything.
She basically she just built a really close relationship with somebody who she idolized, and was able to tell her, that she wished that she didn't be made to feel so small by the white man, by just men in general, and everybody around her in general. Like, she feels like her life is meaningless. She just takes care of her daughter, and she doesn't really feel like she has a lot of purpose. And she says that she wishes that she could kill white men, and she's basically, and one of the strongest things that she said was like, I feel like they found a smart way to lynch me without me knowing. Mm-hmm. And then she's like, they're taking my happiness and everything away from me. And through this conversation, she starts kind of like talking to herself, and that's when she busts into "I'm Hippolyta," and then crashes into the next stop.
Right, which is an active fight.
Right.
Or like a Roman old timey what?
Yeah, just like a warrior race of like black Amazon women or something. Mm-hmm. And she was like screaming, and she was like face to face with like a trainer who was training her, and telling her to stop. Like, she's like, you're not giving birth. This is a fight. So she's like trying to train her up. And she's giving this real encouraging speech and stuff. Mm-hmm. And again, it's doing that same thing. She's getting like knocked back down by this girl, or not doing the right thing, or not screaming at the beginning, because it's doing a new day, or a new reversion of this same story. And it's only changed like one thing. And then after a couple times, she gets up, starts fighting. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then she's the leader.
Yes.
And she's the one giving the speech. Mm-hmm. And like 100 General Cluster from the Civil War looking motherfuckers come running down. And it's her and her like 13 guerrilla warrior princess women. And they like slaughter a couple of them. And then she gives this speech again about not being held down. And maybe this is kind of like a microcosm about some stuff that's happening in her brain. Like, these different situations, and she's giving herself pep. And maybe we'll see a different Hippolyta moving forward. A more adventurous, more outspoken, more...
Right. Because when she says, I am Hippolyta, George's wife, when they had their conversation, lets you know that she's going to be different. So I believe so. Yeah, so that's where she goes next. So while the next group of white men are running up to fight, she says, I am Hippolyta, George's wife, and she zips to where she's with Uncle George, and she's talking in the bed with him. Yeah, she wakes up how it did episode 1. Mm-hmm. Just how they woke up. And they're talking. Yeah, she's just basically telling him about everything that she's discovering right now, and that she's like confessing to him, like, I don't know what I'm doing, like, I'm trying, and this and that, and they talk or whatever, and then it kind of pans, and she like starts living. They go into a spaceship that looks like Woody. Yeah. And then they like start living the real life of Orinthia Blue. Like, they're like out there doing space tech and all this shit and spending all this time together. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that kind of ends... Discovering, exploring. That kind of ends abruptly, and she goes back to the intergalactic soul sister. Beyonce, apparently her name was. Mm-hmm. And she asked her, well, do you want to go home back to Earth, or do you want to stay here? And she's like, well, how can I go home knowing that I could be all of this here? Mm-hmm. And I thought she was gonna, and she's like, but I have D, so I gotta go home. And I thought she was gonna go home. But then they had that statement, and it shows Tick come out of the rift like with a book. Mm-hmm. And then Hip never comes, and the rift closes, the machine stops moving after Tick starts trying to figure out what's going on. Mm-hmm. And Hip never comes back through the portal. Maybe she came first. And left instantly without Tick? I don't know. It's real shitty after Tick saved you. Yeah. I didn't even know Tick got sucked in. Because it only show her get sucked in.
No, it did show Tick just kind of get sucked in at the end, and that's why I was like, did he get sucked in? But it definitely showed him get spit out.
Yes.
And he had a book that said Lovecraft Country, written by George Freeman, his uncle. And then the police started pulling up, and he's inside this building with a dead cop, because remember he shot the cop, and
Hippolyta shot the cop.
Yeah, Hippolyta shot the cop, and the cop is laying there with his blood on the Orinthia Blue comic that says Diana's name, that says Dee's name on it, and that's where the episode ends.
Yes.
So she's like, why does that matter? And I'm like, because now they're the police. All they got to do is, I guess, not use a computer. I mean, I don't know, go to a Rolodex or a file cabinet and
just go to the Freemans
or the car that's outside, unless it's not outside anymore. I don't know, but whatever the case may be, it's not that hard to find niggas if you're the police. And that's what people like to do, is find niggas. So they could track it back to them. And now Tick is in this weird situation, and we're gonna see if he does escape or what he has to do to escape next episode.
Yes.
Let us know what you guys think is gonna happen in the next episode. If you made it this far, thank you. Thank you for sticking with us. We're trying to get our engagement up.
Yes. Please like, comment, and subscribe.
Yes.
And let us know what you guys want us to see. Give us some recommendations in the comments.
Let us know what you guys think about the show. If you guys have anything that discredits what we say or gives further truth to what we say, drop it down. We love to read and interact, and we don't know any more than anybody else knows about the show. We're just trying to take blind guesses and sometimes watch it twice because shit be like,
right. You gotta watch it twice.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all we got for you guys today. Thank you for joining us at the Royalty Review, and y'all stay good.
Bye.
That's up here. We just need a we need a sign off.
We do. And